King of my everything. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech.
You're listening to Chris Ayotte on WMUZ 103.5 The Light. Detroit made, Bible strong. Want to thank all of our callers for sharing your Wednesday wisdom during our open line topic. And our two wonderful winners for tonight's book giveaway. Again, the title of the book is Get Organized God's Way, is Doug and Kim. Congratulations, Doug and Kim. You are going to receive a complimentary copy of Get Organized God's Way by our next guest, who says, with the abundance of how-to books and advice on organizing, why do we still struggle with clutter? Not you, the person sitting next to you. Is there a deeper problem underneath our piles of possessions? Could it be that clutter is really a spiritual issue? Well, just to put a finer point on it, she is a certified professional organizer. She's been doing it for over 30 years, so she knows what she's talking about. And she learned that clutter was essentially a faith issue, and she has a passion now to teach on the joys of leading an orderly life. Yes, there is joy in that, ladies and gentlemen. And she's the author of Get Organized God's Way. I want to welcome to the show Eileen Koff. Eileen, thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I am just so humbled to be in this position today to speak into the kingdom about what God has poured into me. I'm just so blessed. So thank you.
Well, wonderful. It's mutual, and thank you for the complimentary copies. I know you're going to bless two wonderful listeners out there who are going to benefit by what you have to say. By the way, I'm getting all my papers in order here, and I'm making sure everything's very neat while I'm talking to you, Eileen, because I'm trying to get organized. You're a professional organizer. Do you walk around and you kind of pick people apart a little bit and say, look, this is what you need to organize in your life?
No.
Okay, good.
I do know.
Great. So tell us a little bit about what this profession entails.
Well, professionally, like you started off, like with all the organizing books out there on people's shelves that when I go into and help organize, I find them all. And I'm sitting here going, no, there's some kind of a disconnect here. Because if it was easy, everybody would be leading an orderly life, and it's just not easy. There are so many reasons behind it. And from the world's point of view, the concept is, of course, our economic health. Is that the more we have, the healthier that we're going to be. And our worldly, I don't know, what do you want to call it, personalities of the more I have, the wealthier I am. And God says the exact opposite. It's really interesting how much the world has infiltrated our mindset in terms of materialism and how we handle it versus when you look at Scripture, when you read through the Bible as an organizer, which is what I did way back when, and I saw all of these amazing references to how to live, why living an orderly life is godly. Because, number one, God is a God of order. Mm-hmm. And anything that is not of order, is not of God. So
you're saying I need to fold that laundry in the laundry basket? At least I did a load of wash, Eileen. I feel very proud of myself.
Okay, that's great.
But we have to organize it.
That's the world's concept of what organization is. That is not what the Bible study, Get Organized God's Way, concept of what organized
so
is.
This isn't about organizing the closet or the home?
Well, yes, it is.
It is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yes, because it's also a declutter workbook.
Okay.
So it helps you go through these steps. I mean, this is what I do as a person. That's my profession, is help people get order. But why you get things in order? What's behind the whole? What are the root issues? What is God trying to tell you through this process that makes a transformation in your life and your family's life, and then it becomes your community's life? And I've even seen this on the global scale.
Yeah.
I mean, there's such transformation that happens when we begin to think differently. And our thoughts are predicated upon what we believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Yes.
Well, as a man believeth in his heart, so he does.
Yes. Well, let's get to the underlying, and I appreciate that because you're right. There are some motivations, maybe some root causes here as to why people either think the way they do or why they're prone to clutter in their life or why they don't feel like they're, quote, a good organizer. And, it is emotional, it is mental, and it is spiritual,
emotional.
Isn't it?
Yes, that's the bottom line. Well, I look at it at everything as a spiritual issue. I mean, I may be just very weird out there. But
no, the longer I live, the more I think that way, Eileen.
Yeah. So yes, the bottom line is, like I stated before, it's what you believe is what you do. I mean, I sit there and people go, well, I had a woman that was interviewing me the other day, and she goes, well, all those Christians, they talk a good talk and then don't go in their house though. so
Wait a minute, is she saying that Christians are messy people?
Yes, we are.
Come on, that's not fair.
Well, you should take a look at my desk right now.
Well, I mean, I know. I hear you. But when it comes to getting organized, Eileen, which do you find to be more prevalent of an issue? Is it the fear of change, the fear of commitment, the fear of actually completing the task? I know there's a lot of procrastinators out there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what understand when I do a lot of talking, and I start with there's no judgment here, okay? Yeah. That the world and its ways has taught us a direction, as I started earlier, on how we're supposed to think about, our possessions. And the more we have, the wealthier we are. You go into Scripture and it says just the exact opposite. The more we give away, the more blessings we are, the wealthier we become. I mean, so you've got to really understand that the world has entrapped us to think a certain way. And so in that respect, there is no judgment. But what I'm doing is I'm going to hold up a stop sign and I'm going to say, wait a minute. Now, do you really believe this? And why do you believe this? And then they go, well, I was taught this, or this is what was handed down by my family to me. This is how I've always done it. This is, so this is their comfort mode. This is, this is, the ways of the world. So my purpose is to introduce what God has to say about the way they're thinking. And when I have them read the Scripture as to how that correlates to what's going on. So you asked me, I'm trying to remember what you said.
Well, let's just go with what you feel would be your first piece of advice to a client whose home environment doesn't necessarily reflect who they are or who they want to be, their personality.
Right. So I had a lady who called me up and said, I was sitting in church and my pastor was speaking about hospitality and how do we open up our homes to having people over, because the early church was in homes, right? Mm-hmm. And when we have Bible studies or whatnot, when we get to know each other on an intimate level, that's when we really begin to, take our guard down. We become, intimate with those people that are in our study, right? Because this is an intimate group. This isn't, going into a, church building, so to speak. So when you're in this kind of a group setting, when there's accountability, when there is, affirmation as to, okay, so she says, I want to open up my home and I want to do this. She goes, and when the pastor was talking about who has opened up their home to allow these things to, to happen, she says there was dead silence. She says you could tell that this really struck a chord as to, well, my home's not in great condition, so I really don't want to have anybody over. Or, I'll be that way when I get a new sofa. Or, A, B, C, or D. But the bottom line is that we're not meeting in this intimate of relationships in our homes, because of maybe the clutter and the dysfunction that's going on in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that affects us. That affects our behavior, our
it
conduct.
affects the kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So there's some greater issues at stake here.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
I think of, when we do have company, whether it's, holidays or if parties, whatever, people tend to clean house. I mean, it gives them a good excuse to vacuum and, wash the floors
Deadlines
and
are
dust the
perfect,
furniture, etc. So there are some people out there that can get either organized or clean, some structure in the home, Eileen, that have a difficult time of maintaining it that way. What do you think the issue may be for them?
For the maintenance is everything.
Yeah.
All
okay.
Right. So in my study, Get Organized God's Way, I actually break down a system for how to get organized. And I take the acronym of S.H.A.L.O.M. That's Shalom. Okay?
Nice.
So Shalom, my background being Jewish, was kind of a natural for me to understand. Okay, so Shalom means peace, but not only peace, well-being. Oh my gosh, it's almost indescribable at times when there is Shalom. There is this sense of God, the sense of the Spirit of the Lord is there.
Mm-hmm.
It is different from when everything is scattered all over the place. Okay. And that's one of the main reasons why I do what I do, is because to bring God's presence into your space means that you get to hear him.
Yeah.
And when you hear him, then your purpose for that day. I mean, I could go on and on and on that one, but
Shalom just meaning peace.
Yes,
I'm just so with
peace.
it. And then
Well-being.
I always think well-being. Right.
Right. So you were asking me about the maintenance.
The staying that way.
Yeah. So M, the very end of this process is maintenance. M and maintenance. That's what I call it.
I got you.
And if you don't have the M for maintenance, then you only have Shalom.
Oh, and you don't just want Shalom.
No, you need,
because then you feel shellacked if you just have the Shalom.
That's right. So you have to understand how to maintain what you have already structured, and by doing that means you must go slowly. You must not think that you have to do the whole basement in a day, your whole room in a day. You go in a drawer, and you do a drawer.
Yeah.
And you maintain that drawer. And how do you maintain that drawer? I have it S-H-A-L-O. It tells you exactly how to do that.
Wow.
So that at the end, so you get the book.
Yeah, I guess so. I do it at what I call in chunks. I don't, I don't want to have to feel like I've got to, boil the ocean in a day, as they say, or conquer Rome in a day.
So when people say, Eileen, well, how do I start? What do I do? And so I say, okay, this is going to blow your mind, all right? So you look at what's bothering you the most, okay? Okay, is it your closet, or is it your the whole room, or whatever?
Or your junk drawer.
Okay, or your junk drawer, or whatever. So you go to the area that seems to be bothering you the most. Then what you do is you take a paper towel roll, or a toilet paper roll, or whatever. Okay, and you take that paper towel roll and you put it up to your eye, and only that area that is exposed within your periphery, within the vision of the paper towel roll. You know what I'm trying to say? That's what you deal with.
Right.
Okay, because that's that little bit of area, and you do that area first. Then you can sweep it to the left or to the right, and you do it systematically. And in the process of the Shalom is that you have certain boxes or certain bins with you, so that, and one of the bins is called Take Someplace Else. And so when you're doing that little area that's there and you go, oh, this is supposed to go to the bathroom. You don't get up and you go to the bathroom. No, because then when you get to the bathroom, you're going to go someplace else and you'll never get back to where you were started before, because our brains just kind of, naturally just don't work that way. So I say you stay in that circle of work until you're finished. And if that object needs to go to the bathroom, you put it into your take someplace else box.
Right.
So that at the end of that session, whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you want to give it, then you go and you take things and you put them away. That way you're not, zigzagging all across the house and forgetting what you were doing. So all of those practical tips like that, after my, long time, I started my business in 98. So there's a lot of tips like that in the studies, because you can't do it if it's just, from scripture. You've got to have some practical application of how to go about doing this. So I've tried to balance the two together so that they can actually get the work done as they are seeking God as to why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah. And very well stated, Eileen. I think even I could do that. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about some of those application examples. And our guest is Eileen Koff. Although you have a Jewish background, Eileen, I know that you're a born-again Christian, and you're offering a Christ-centered approach to organizing. You've been doing it for decades. And it is a radically unique approach. And she's the author of the book, Get Organized God's Way. The publisher is Redemption Press, and you can learn more at Eileen's website. It's Eileen, E-I-L-E-E-N, Koff, K-O-F-F, Ministries.com, EileenKoffMinistries.com. More with Eileen when we return. You're listening to Chris Ayotte on WMUZ 103.5 The Light, Detroit made by God's Way. It's a beautiful workbook. It's also a Bible study, and we're talking about organizing and cleaning. And that makes me think, Eileen, is there a link between, like, cleaning your house and getting organized in your life?
I think so. I think that both of them are very important, but they're not the same thing. Okay?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So
they're separate.
They're separate, right. So house cleaning is very important. You can't really clean your home well if there's a lot of clutter and a lot of things all over the place. I mean, and that affects your health. It affects your sleep. It affects so many things when your home is in need of a real good, cleaning. So that's very important. So the first thing one would need to do would be to declutter before one actually gets to it. I mean, when I would go into my client's house, we would, for instance, if we were in the kitchen, we would clear out the cabinets or whatever, and then they would end up, taking out all of the things and then cleaning the bottom of the cabinets and things as we went along. So you have to, they're both done simultaneously, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah. But you also say that managing our stuff relates to managing our time? Those are also
absolutely.
Inextricably linked?
Oh, yes. Managing our stuff in terms of, where did I put this? So, when everything is piled every place else and you can't see what you have. And so instead of going out and buying another one and wasting your money and trying to spend, hours trying to find what you think you need, they go hand in hand. It's all levels. There may be one room or two rooms in your home that are fine, and then there's that room, for instance, that storage room or that issue room that no one wants to go into, because that's.
Is it okay to have one of those rooms in the house?
Well, it's okay if, for instance, unless your Aunt Martha's coming in and going to be staying over, and then all of a sudden it's a uh-oh.
Yeah, Aunt Martha, look, wait until you see your room. There's about 5 feet of space for you.
Yeah, no,
yeah, you're going to want to clean up the room if you got to use it for guests. But I'm just saying in general, do those I call them staging rooms.
Yeah.
And I won't tell you how many I have. Is it okay to have a kind of a staging room where you're thinking, okay, I'm going to organize here and then I'm going to dispel?
So now I'm going to give you what God has to say about that. Not what Eileen says, but what God says.
All right, Eileen.
Okay? So God says, I love this. It's in Rick Renner's book, The Purpose-Driven Life.
Mm-hmm.
I state this in the study that basically everything that you own has come from God. Okay, whether materially or you got your job through God and you were able to acquire it, whatever He has given you, whatever He has blessed you with, you have received this directly from Him. Now, I know this is not something that most people have ever thought about. That's why I'm holding up my stop sign and I'm saying, no, let's think about this for a minute. All right, so you've put your stuff that He has given you and begin to remember, readdress the things, rethink things, transform the way you're thinking and how you're believing things, and thinking, okay, He's given me. All right, let's look at my coat. All right, my coat that, you're going to be wearing in a couple of months. And, you think nothing of going in and just dropping it on the ground. And you're thinking, does God really care if I just throw my coat on the ground? You bet He does. Okay? And why is that? Because you're not showing the honor and the respect that you have received a blessing from the Lord. And He has given you this coat to keep you warm, to keep you free from getting sick during the winter time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you dishonor and when you disrespect what God has given you, it's really difficult to expect the blessings and the joy that He wants to give to you on a much deeper level. Let's put it this way. You wouldn't give your kid the keys to the car when he's 10 years old, right?
Right.
So because there are so many other responsibilities that he has to learn just to, turn the thing on, get your seatbelt on, make sure there's nothing in the rear view. There's, tons and tons of steps that he's got to learn first. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Until you're able to give him the keys to say, okay, be safe. And God's looking at us in the same way. Okay? He's looking at us and going, are you responsible for the bigger things that I want to give you when you cannot even keep the things that I've already given you in respect and in honor?
Mm-hmm.
All right? And so in the beginning of the study, I write there are 6 reasons why it is imperative as Christians we lead an orderly life. And along this line, I write, I think it's the 6th and most important reason. It's why I wrote the study, and it goes along the same line. Is that He's looking to see what kind of honor and respect are we treating everything that we have been given through Him now. Remember when Jesus talked about the servants who were given the talents?
Mm-hmm.
The master gave the 10, the 5, and the 1.
Yeah.
And the one that gave the 10, oh my gosh, he was able to multiply it so many more times.
Mm-hmm.
He says, well done, good and faithful servant. Now I'm going to give you such a responsibility that you didn't even think that, because you showed that you cared and you honored whatever I was I gave you. And he did it to the one that has 5 as well. It's you were given. You're given talents, you're given giftings that God wants to say, what are you doing with them now? And it's the same thing with our stuff. What are you doing with the stuff now that I've given you? Why would I bless you with even greater responsibilities if you're just going to hide your little, talent under the soil and not even worry about it, right?
Right.
But the bottom line here is that what we do here on earth is going to matter how the responsibilities come to us in eternity.
Mm.
All right?
So you have an eternal perspective on this.
Yes, absolutely. This isn't just about how we live today, although this is extremely important because God is looking every day at the kinds of things that he has given to us already. So when we see him face to face, Jesus is going to say, okay, Chris, what did you do with the talents and the giftings I gave you? How are you able to bless other people with all of that stuff that was in that room that you weren't even using anyway?
Mm. Yeah, it really makes you think. I wonder about those that, because I was a little bit of a overachiever, Eileen, growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe wanted to be perfect, didn't want to make any mistakes, always wanted to get, the best grade and do right by the teacher. I was a little bit of a brown noser. What do you tell those people that are perfectionists who want everything to be organized, but then they take it to a level that is almost appropriate?
Well, are Christians living for the kingdom of God, or are they living for the world, right? And so how to help people overcome their obsession with perfection is really, really important. That takes a shift of focus, okay? And when we embrace God, we are encouraged to shift our focus away from the world's standard of perfection. Instead, we are to focus on God's values, not what the world tells us that, what those values are. Remember, this world is so temporal, right? And while our spiritual life and our spiritual growth has to be meaningful, it has to be enduring, right? So that means we need to accept our imperfection, right? Because
and be okay with that, because none of us are perfect.
No,
we've all sinned and fallen short.
Accept it. We need to accept it, right? Not just admit it, but we need to accept that imperfection. And then we need to also, at the same time, understand that forgiveness and grace goes along with it.
Yes.
But as I stated before, we need to always keep that eternal perspective as to how is this perfectionism, getting in the way of my eternal perspective.
Yeah. You could say I'm imperfect, and doggone it, people love me. You've got to love yourself in a healthy way in that respect. I think of, Eileen, how many clients you must have had over the last 30 years. Have you ever had one whose situation was just beyond your help?
Well, it's interesting. When a client wants the help but isn't ready for the help, then there's a big barrier there. When they need to get rid of X amount of things in order to have, the visitation or the family, coming over, or, like there's that deadline and they need to get it done, but they're just not willing to do anything about it. They want you to just go ahead and clean up and make things nicey, but aren't willing to invest themselves into the process. That becomes very, very difficult. And that's, then they're just not ready.
Right.
It's not that it's impossible, but it's the client's, vantage point of, I know I need to do this, but I don't want to. And if you don't want to, it's just not going to make it.
It's an attitude thing. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
What about those people that watch HGTV and get all the home decor magazines and, everything's so perfect and so beautiful, and the colors are in season, and you got the right fashion, the right pillows, the right this, the right that. Is that helpful or no?
Well, it's very motivating, don't you think? That people are, going, okay, wow, that's a neat thing. I could do this in my house.
Yeah.
I could do this, and
Give
so
you some
and
ideas.
so, right. It gives you ideas, and you wouldn't have had that idea had you not seen it or whatever. So yes, it can be very motivating, but it's unrealistic because it never gets to the bottom line as to why things are the way they are. It never gets to the reason as to why you believing, what you're thinking. Why are you doing what you're doing to begin with? So while it's very helpful in getting people motivated and started, there's a huge disconnect in terms of why you're doing what you're doing and what's the bottom line. And my perspective, as you pointed out, is very unique in terms of the structure of looking at it from God's perspective as to, okay, so he's blessed me with, this. How can I honor and respect him with what I want to do? Mm-hmm. And that makes a huge difference as to why we do what we do.
Yeah, so beautifully put. Our guest is Eileen Koff. She is the author of the new book, Get Organized God's Way. Subtitle, Bring God's Order into Every Area of Your Life. And it acts as a Bible study, as a workbook to declutter and to organize. Eileen, is super helpful. It's amazing when you look at it from a spiritual context and getting to the underlying root causes of why we do what we do or don't do what we should do. I thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'll give you the final word here and what we should take away.
Just know that the Holy Spirit is inside of you, and he will direct your steps as you want to declutter and live your life according to his will, according to the way he has intended you, because he is a God of order. He wants order in your life, bottom line, because then you can hear him. And then you hear him, you can receive your purpose for the day. Mm-hmm. And then your days turn into weeks, into months, into the year, so that when you stand before him, he will say, well done. I'm so blessed that you were able to do what I had in purpose for you since the beginning of the time.
Yeah, good and faithful servant. So good. Eileen Koff, thank you so much for being with us. And again, folks, the name of the book, Get Organized God's Way. You can learn more at her website, Eileen Koff. Koff is spelled Koff Ministries.com. Eileen Koff Ministries.com. Eileen, thank you for being with us.
Oh, it's a blessing. Thank you
God
so
bless
much,
you.
Chris. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Chris Ayotte on WMUZ 103.5 The Light, Detroit made Bible Strong.